What's going on, everybody, and welcome to Two Guys in a Fight, the podcast where the hardcore fan and the casual fan square off about all things MMA. My name is PJ, your resident casual fan, and I'm joined, as always, by my counterpart and hardcore MMA fan, Brent. What up, my dude?
What is going on, my friend?
Chilling.
How are you doing today?
Doing good. I wanted to, before we began and got into everything, say a congratulations to the both of us. This is episode 10.
Number 10, numero 10.
That's like the first real milestone, I feel like.
I'm excited. It's
because you don't celebrate 5.
No.
Anybody can do 5
we
episodes.
kind of did, though.
10 shows commitment.
10 does. It shows very much commitment to this. So I'm excited. It's fun. I mean, we're 10 episodes in. We've only missed, 1 week so far. We've kind of messed up the schedule here and there, but it was for good reasoning. But we've still been consistent. So it's this is the milestone, number 10. Next is going to be 20.
That's it.
And then 50, and then a hundo.
Yeah, so you just totally skip 30, 40.
Exactly.
Yeah, because no one gives a shit about those.
No one gives a shit. Once you've hit 20, you're like, all right,
yeah
25,
50,
next one.
and then 100. You skip a whole 50.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I feel you. Well, it's been fun so far, man. 10 in. I'm definitely feeling it. I think we've gotten better each week. That's my own opinion.
I believe so.
We do
as well.
listen to our own episodes.
That's true.
We fact check ourselves. I listen to myself all the time. I'm like, dude, that is so wrong.
I know. I'll listen back to myself. I'm like, why did I say that?
What's
in that manner?
All right, real quick, just to ask you this real quick. What is your favorite thing so far that we've done?
I honestly loved the video game podcast we did. I thought that was so fun to do.
We need to run that back.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun. That was for the what fight was that for? I know we were talking about Demetrius Johnson and stuff. It was Stefan Struve, wasn't it? Versus
we played Stefan Struve versus Fabricio Verdum.
Oh yeah.
But we talked about basically because there was no fights that week, so we talked about basically all the news that happened that past week in MMA and everything. Well, we played UFC 2, not 3. The next time we do a UFC Gamer episode, it will definitely be 3, though.
Yeah.
For sure.
No, yeah, we definitely... And I think about it now, and I watch people check kicks in real life, and I just think about how if there's one really glaring issue with UFC 3, it's that leg kick TKO, that if somebody checks you right on time, you're just done, which never fucking happens in real life.
Barely. It's a lot. I mean, the leg kicks are if you land a few, you're kind of fucked already.
Yeah.
Just from the get-go. You land a few clean leg kicks, your leg health's like halfway down, and you're a few more leg kicks away from just being slaughtered. Now, it was really bad in the demo. You never played the demo.
No.
The demo was if you landed like 3, I remember they had, I want to say, maybe 10 fighters from the lightweight division to choose from in the demo, and one of them was Edson Barboza. So if you landed like 2 or 3 leg kicks with Barboza, you had a real chance for a leg kick TKO. It was awful.
Well, that kind of ties into the fight we're going to talk about, Poirier and Gaethje's nasty leg kicks.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever used him in the game?
I haven't yet. I don't think I have, at least. I've played against him, but I don't think I've actually used Justin Gaethje.
Like in career mode?
Not even in career mode. Just like I was doing
exhibition?
I was doing a lightweight tournament, and I selected all these people and whatnot, and I was playing against Justin Gaethje. But other than that, I have not used him in UFC 3.
Should we just jump right into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
That's a good segue.
Let's do it.
Well, we're breaking down UFC on Fox. Poirier Gaethje. This happened Saturday night. We're recording this on a Monday. We're a little delayed. We're busy.
Indeed. Fact check.
But yeah, first off, this was sort of interesting. And again, I'm the casual fan. I'm still kind of learning the format of everything and how everything plays out and how they book these fights and stuff. And it was a 4-fight main card, but it was like a 10-fight
14 fight
prelim.
No, 14. Yeah, 10 fight prelim and then 4-fight main card. Yeah.
I get I don't know. To somebody who doesn't watch the sport much, I think the switching from like if it's a pay-per-view, you get your early prelims on Fight Pass exclusively. Then you get to tune in on cable on FS1 for the prelims, and then you got to switch over to the pay-per-view for the actual main card. So like I can see how that's annoying or hard. Like it adds another barrier to accessing the sport. But also, I don't understand why you would call them prelims if it's all on the same channel. You know what I mean? Like it just feels like all one. Why not just call everything the main card?
Yeah, but then you can kind of intimidate some people with like an 8-fight main card.
Is it like the pay scale? Like, is it when you're on the main card? That's the.
I think it's only if you're in a championship fight. I don't think the main event fighters get paid significantly more than the co-main event fighters. There have been certain fight cards where like the first fight on the main card, one of those fighters gets paid the most because he's like a veteran, has the biggest contract out of some compared to some other guys who have, haven't been in the UFC as long and have a smaller contract but are kind of up and coming, but they're still fighting on that old contract. You know what I mean? But I only think the pay differential is in a championship fight. Like it's significantly more in championship fights.
Yeah. So that was just interesting to me that it looks, and I know we've talked about this before and how you think that the cards go on forever. It was almost like their attempt to have a nice little tight, concise main card, yet they had this long, sprawling prelim that I don't think most people watched any of.
If you were like professionally covering the sport of MMA and had to watch this entire card, I feel kind of bad for you because I think at like fight number 6 or 7, because I've attended a UFC event before, just one. I've attended one before. I got there, I want to say, oh man, I think the first or second like not fight pass prelim, FS1 prelim. So I sat, because it was a 6-fight main card, this particular card. So I sat through, I want to say 8 fights, maybe on the entire night, maybe either 7 or 8 fights this night because it was a 6-fight main card once again. 7 or 8. So, and I was dying at probably 3 fights into the main card. And then there's still 3 more fights after this one's over. So I can only imagine how people who, professionally cover the sport and were attending the event had to sit through the whole 14 fights. Like, I mean, I love MMA, and this isn't coming. I mean, like, I absolutely enjoy it. I love watching every bit of it, but you can only take so much of it without eventually getting worn out by it.
Yeah.
So 14 fights is a little much. But, I mean, like, me and you didn't really watch the prelims.
No.
There was one fight on the prelims that we
dropped
sort of tuned
on the
in
last
for.
prelim fight.
Yeah, because, once again, we are busy human beings and we have other things to do. So we can't commit to a UFC event beginning at 3:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when we started watching the fights, because the Fox cards always start a little earlier because it's, broadcast television and everything, or network television. Whenever we tune into the fights, it's usually around that between 7 and 8 o'clock time frame, and that's like right when the main card was starting. So I mean, it was good for us, somebody who is only going to really watch the main card, or doesn't need to get to a pay-per-view early or whatever. Well, a nice, concise 4-fight main card. You get your content, you get out, couple 2.5 hours max. You get those 4 fights, and that's kind of the perfect, like, at least for me. Like the time frame of watching UFC. Like, how football games are usually like 2.5 hours. You watch a game. I mean, depending on if you're watching like college or the NFL, right? You watch a full game and you kind of, you get everything you wanted out of that one game compared to, I mean, there are certain football fans who could sit and watch college football all day long, right?
I do tend to do that.
You watch it all day long.
But there's a nice like little buffer in between, so you get some time to like actually take care of chores and shit like that. But,
right. Plus, football is only like 5-6 months of the year, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like you're getting it every single month. To whereas if you sat down for an entire Saturday and covered or at least watched every single UFC event, your Saturdays would be booked. You wouldn't be able to do much because there's a fight card almost every other weekend at the very least. But that's just the point. Like the 14 fight card is a little much if you're really watching the sport like that. So
for the 4-fight main card, what scale of 1 to 10, how much did you enjoy those 4 fights?
I gotta say, I would say a 9 or 10. I really enjoyed the main card. It was a lot of fun. All 4 fights were outstanding. I enjoy. I mean, not outstanding, but at least they delivered in just about every aspect you would have wanted them to, aside from maybe 1 or 2 different things you might have asked for out of some of the fights. But, I mean, the main event,
sick.
That's my fight of the year right now. There's
Really?
no question. That shit was batshit crazy. That fight, I knew it was going to be crazy. If you have watched any of Dustin Poirier's past fights in general, not just recently, and if you've seen Justin Gaethje fight more than... Actually, if you've seen any Justin Gaethje fight, really, you would know what kind of fight we were going to be in for. It was not going to disappoint.
Right.
Both of these guys just threw leather for 4 rounds until somebody finally fell.
Yeah.
And that somebody happened to be, Justin Gaethje. But, I mean, before we even break down the fight of what happened and everything, I just want to say that both of these guys are unbelievable warriors. I mean, they are fighting in the ring or in the octagon, just back and forth, bloodying each other, hitting each other with bombs.
Yeah.
Getting their legs kicked off. And I mean, just doing it for all of our entertainment, bleeding, getting poked in the eye, just ultimate violence right in front of us for our pleasure. And for one, like without these motherfuckers, we wouldn't be talking about this shit right now. So Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje are 2 warriors who we should absolutely commend on this Monday for providing just utter violence and craziness the whole main event. I mean, it was so beautiful. Beautifully violent.
Is Justin Gaethje the best 1 and 2 UFC fighter ever?
Yes. I mean, I can't think of anybody else, at least in recent history, who has been in such competitive fights with such high-level guys where, I mean, the lightweight division is the biggest shark tank in MMA by far. And Justin Gaethje is a few punches away from beating Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier and being undefeated. He has got to be up there for one of the best 1 and 2 fighters in UFC history for sure.
So for somebody who doesn't know, so Justin Gaethje going into the Eddie Alvarez fight, which was his last fight, was 18-0.
Yes. Yes, he had only one fight in the UFC, but he was 17-0 and was the World Series of Fighting lightweight champion before he came over to the UFC.
Yeah. So this guy is the real... So if you're only going off of his UFC record, that doesn't tell near the whole story.
No, not even close.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he had... if you pull up his Wikipedia page, I think out of his 18 wins, are I think 17 are knockouts.
Yeah.
Which is utterly insane.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
insanity.
It's the craziest thing to ever think of. And if you ever watch those fights, they were very, very, very similar to the way he makes all of his UFC fights. It's virtually impossible to not brawl with this guy.
Right.
If he just somehow, some way drags you into a brawl before eventually him falling or his opponent falling. Mm-hmm. But if you're not entertained by Justin Gaethje fights, I'm going to need you to go see a doctor ASAP.
I mean, that's literally, we talk about it all the time, how we watch the sport because it is violent. This is the standard for what I judge fights against, is how close it is to a Justin Gaethje-esque performance. Just throw it on the line.
No one can compete with
all
this
out.
guy in regards to entertainment.
And he's
MMA.
well aware of it. I mean, he did that interview at the after the fight. I saw it on, I think, MMA Fighting. They had their camera set up. And he was explaining how he sees himself more as an entertainer than a fighter. And he understands the business that he's in. And he's not there to get technical and score points and then run away. Like, he's there to put on a fight, which I appreciate as a fight fan. But then, like, in terms of, like, career longevity and shit like that, I'm just like, I cringe for him a lot, too. Because I'm like, man... And it's funny because he kind of answered this question, because I was thinking, how long can you fight like that? Like, how lucrative is a career? I mean, maybe you make a lot of money up front because you're very fun to watch, but you can only do that for so long, and before you start losing your chin and getting, just beat down over time. And he actually answered that question in that same interview, saying, like, he only plans to fight 5 more fights. So, and then he wants to do social work, is what he said, which is admirable.
Interesting. That's. I mean, I didn't hear the social work part, because that's why I'm interested in that. Or I said that was interesting. But yeah, I've also, I've heard that Justin Gaethje only wants, like you said, 5 more fights, maybe compete for a couple more years and just be done. And I guess he wants to go into social work. And if that's the route he wants to go towards, I'm not going to sit here and stop him. But I mean, even 5 possible more fights like that is just career altering, life changing. I mean, truly is. I mean, we don't know the years of damage Justin Gaethje is taking with his MMA career. I mean, maybe he's able to save himself a little bit and win these next couple of fights and not take as much damage. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe the coaches he's working with. He works with some very, very, very good coaches, and Trevor Whitman and the Greg Jackson gym. I think it's with the Greg Jackson gym. I could be wrong on there. But I know he trains with Trevor Whitman, and Trevor Whitman is an outstanding coach. And I'm not sure if he's going to try to switch up the game plan for Gaethje or what. Or if he's going to try to convince him to use some of that NCAA caliber wrestling that he does have. I mean, we saw Dustin Poirier try to take Justin Gaethje down, and he just couldn't.
Right.
He took him down one time, and Gaethje sprung back up like a spring. I mean, he jumped right back up to his feet. No issue at all. He could clearly utilize his wrestling in a lot of his fights if he wanted to. I mean, and you've seen him, how good he is in the clinch. With landing that nasty ass uppercut in the clinch, a very Randy Couture-esque uppercut, except it's a lot more powerful. It reminds me of when he lands those uppercuts against the cage. Remember, did you ever watch the Shane Carwin versus Frank Mir fight back in the day?
I'm sure I saw it.
Yeah, I mean, they were fighting for the interim heavyweight championship back when Brock Lesnar was out with like diverticulitis. Yeah, and Shane Carwin just unloaded on a series of uppercuts on Frank Mir and just finished him basically right after that. And those uppercuts that Justin Gaethje throws in the clinch really remind me of that. But I want to say, if he could utilize his wrestling, I mean, he easily could have won this fight. I'm not easily, because Dustin Poirier is a world caliber fighter. He is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and I believe he is. I'm pretty sure. But this man, I mean, he's well-rounded everywhere. So saying that Justin Gaethje would have easily won if he used his wrestling is wrong. It would just give him a lot better of a chance of beating Dustin Poirier.
Right.
I mean, Dustin Poirier is a good wrestler, has good takedown defense, has good offensive wrestling as well. But Justin Gaethje's wrestling is just out of this world.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw the takedown defense he displayed against a guy who has solid takedowns in Dustin Poirier.
Yeah.
So if he even when he got rocked in the fourth round, what if he just decided to shoot for a takedown instead of backing up and getting hit more and wobbling around? If he just tried to initiate a grappling exchange or something to try to get Dustin Poirier to the ground, he just couldn't do it. Or he just chose not to do it, basically. So is that going to be career-altering? Should he do that to try to compete in the sport longer? Are you okay as just a fan of just saying, fuck it, go ahead, have these next 5 fights and go crazy, do whatever the hell you want? And, what do you think? Like, what would you want to see from Justin Gaethje as a fan? Not as anybody, just a fan. Like, what would you want to see from Justin Gaethje?
Well, what I'm about to say has to do with other fights on the card, too. But I am not. Everyone likes to see a flashy fighter. Everyone likes to see Anderson Silva go into the Matrix. But I'm also, I think, more of a fan of just sheer dominance, and that's in whatever style you want it to be. And so, if the general population finds wrestling boring, when I look at Khabib, to me, the sheer dominance of him negates whatever kind of boredom you may experience by just watching a pure wrestler at a high level. So, like, if Justin Gaethje was able to change his game plan and come in and show a little bit more wrestling and dominate in the way that he's just as exciting standing up, like, I'm more of a fan of dominance than I am of the flashy, crazy fight. Although I enjoyed their fight 100%. If he's that high level on the ground, I wouldn't mind seeing that too. So, and then that might extend his longevity, which maybe that's not even on his mind, because he's obviously planning his retirement as we speak. And whether he never gets hit again and he goes 5-0, I would still like to see him on the ground and trying something new,
Right. That's just crazy to me how different perspectives are, because your perspective is you want to see dominance, right? Yeah. You want to see a John Jones, a Fedor Emelianenko-esque fighter where it's just sheer, utter dominance for years. Like, John Jones never lost. Fedor, greatest heavyweight of all time, in my opinion, was basically 30-0 before he eventually lost. Anderson Silva was 16-0 in the UFC, 10 consecutive title defenses. Held the record for consecutive title defenses. I mean, just utter sheer dominance. Demetrius Johnson. Yeah. So you'd rather see that But Justin Gaethje, I think the way he's thinking is, I never want to be thought of as a boring fighter in any aspect. So I'm not sure if he's just fighting specifically for that reason.
Well,
of just appealing to, not even the casual fan, but just anybody who loves fighting. I mean, if you love fighting, you're not going to not enjoy
right.
Justin
And that's
Gaethje
my
fight.
argument to that. His point is like, don't worry about me. If you're dominant in the cage, I'm still going to enjoy your fight. That's all it is. Like, I just really love it, that much to where I don't need you to risk your life, for my entertainment. You can be dominant in other ways that are a little safer for you if you can execute,
Right. And I think GSP is a prime example of that. GSP was primarily a striker for the majority of his upbringing. And then he got knocked out by Matt Serra, and then he started implementing his wrestling. He became possibly MMA's greatest wrestler with having zero wrestling background and just having excellent grappling. So, as soon as he got knocked out by Matt Serra, he entirely changed the way he approached the game. He thought of longevity, he thought of not taking as much damage, thought for shooting more takedowns. But then, as he dominated, but as his fights grew more or less and less exciting, I think that's when he sort of switched the narrative again, where he started striking a little bit more and he started taking more hits. And there are certain fights where he just couldn't get the fight down to the ground. Like if you ever seen the Johnny Hendricks fight with George St. Pierre took a lot of damage in that fight. That was his last fight that he had before he eventually came back to beat Bisping. But one of the reasons he wanted to, I think, stop competing as much is, for one, the pressure of being the champion and having 9, fight. I think he held the record behind, and I think he was right behind Anderson for the title defense record. He had 9 title defenses in a row, I think, either 8 or 9. But just the dominance, the pressure of being the champion, he wanted less pressure, and he wanted to get away from the sport for a bit. But I think part of the reason, too, was because of the damage he was taking over the years. He probably wanted to sit back, not take as much damage, save some future years, especially with all of these CTE studies coming out. So if Justin Gaethje were to do something like that, where he could implement his wrestling the way a George St. Pierre could, not saying he would be that, but who knows? Like, who knows until you try it, right?
Right.
So instead of sitting back and consistently getting in brawls and either winning or losing the brawl, but, the winners are the fans when we're watching a Justin Gaethje fight. And I think that is his, sole purpose of doing this almost. He never wants to be thought of as the boring fighter. He wants to go down in history as the most exciting fighter ever. And I think that will hold true if he continues to fight this way. But that is, I would say that's what I have to say about Justin Gaethje's brawling and just his ability to put on these most unbelievable fights.
Yeah,
it's so exciting.
Yeah.
But what do you think of Dustin Poirier's resilience, and what do you think of his performance in this fight?
Yeah. So the fight got finished in the 4th round by TKO, and I don't know how much controversy there is around it in the MMA world right now, but I guess it could be argued that some of the eye pokes were possibly controversial. Oh, they did happen. Justin Gaethje lost a point for multiple eye pokes. He did one, I think, 2nd or 3rd round, got warned by Herb Dean. Dustin Poirier got time for that to recover, and then the 4th round, it happened again.
3rd round.
3rd round?
Yeah, I think the first eye poke was in the 2nd round. I could be wrong on that, but I know the second one was later in the 3rd round, and that's where he took a lot of time and was able to chill. And I think that's where he was able to kind of recuperate. But yeah, it was. I
thought it was right before the knockout.
Mm-hmm. It was I'm pretty sure it was in the 3rd. Yeah, it was the 3rd round where that's the one where Justin Gaethje got a point taken away, and then they had the rest. And then they finished the round, and then they had the rest in between rounds.
Right. Okay.
And that's when
Yeah.
Dustin came out and did the job.
I feel you. But yeah, so it did give him, a little chance. But it gives both fighters a chance. Although now you're the one suffering from pain in the eye and a lack of vision. But even with that, it's weird on those penalties when you get kicked in the nuts or eye poked. That was still damaging to you and not to the other fighter, but you both get time to rest. So yeah, it gives everyone time to rest, but you are dealing with now an injury to a very sensitive part of your body, which can diminish your production from thereafter, right? So, yeah, with that said, I mean, a potential, because they brought in the doctor, right, on that second eye poke.
Yeah.
And so it was looking close. I was like, please don't be a no contest. Like, this would, I think everybody was feeling that same way because the fight was so great. You know, we could feel like this is going to be a great finish. And then if it had ended on an eye poke, we would have all been really disappointed.
That's the way that Dustin Poirier, and did you ever see the Dustin Poirier Eddie Alvarez fight?
I want to say yes, because I went through his whole yeah.
That shit was crazy,
yeah,
right?
with the knees at the end.
The knees
yeah,
at the
yeah,
end.
yeah.
That,
yeah.
like, it would be very similar to that. It'd be very reminiscent of that fight. I think Dustin was actually on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani today, and they were asked, I think Ariel had asked him about the eye pokes, like how badly did it affect him, and he was saying in between rounds when the doctor came out, they asked him if he could see, and he really couldn't see very
you
well.
You could tell he couldn't. Yeah.
But he was telling him, yeah, I can see. So he was basically blindly going out there, at least with no right eye.
I've been poked in the eye. Like I played flag football, but it was full contact, and I played on the line, and I took a thumb like straight to the corner of my left eye, and it pushed my eyeball like to the side, and it went black, like I couldn't see. And so I took a knee. And I do remember in that moment thinking like, all right, here it goes. Like, I'm just now going to be blind in my left eye. Like, I know that feeling, you know, like, and it's funny because in the moment, like, my adrenaline's going and stuff like that. So that was my first thought, because you're just like, all right, accept your circumstances. And, you know, but yeah, so I can totally see how that could like fuck you up for like the rest of the fight. So, yeah, and I don't think that, because maybe somebody could argue that he was taking his time, right? You know, everyone boos when people have to take the 5 minutes that you're allotted for an eye poke or a ball kick.
Because they want to see violence,
because they want to see it. But dude, I know firsthand.
They're drunk as hell and they want to see violence.
I understand. But that man, I know from my own experience, you cannot see after a decent eye poke. And I'm not him. I don't know what he saw, but I kind of have a feeling like he probably couldn't see.
Oh, I believe he couldn't. And if I'm Dustin Poirier, I take all the time in the world. You just got poked in the eye. You need a minute to see for one, and you've got the opportunity to catch a second breath, get a second wind. Go ahead and do it, man.
Yeah.
Like, you got poked in the eye. This is not your fault. Take advantage of the situation if I'm Dustin Poirier.
Yeah.
Like, there was one time where if you get kicked in the nuts, you got 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Josh Koscheck got kicked in the nuts one time before. I can't remember who. I want to say he was fighting Anthony Johnson. He got kicked right there in the nuts, and he took the entire 5 minutes. And you could tell, like, he was probably good to fight after like 2 minutes, but he decided to say fuck it, and he took the whole 5 minutes. And a lot of people kind of bashed him for that. But you've got 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You got kicked in the nuts. You got 5 minutes to recover. You could go ahead. I'm not going to stop you from using all of that 5 minutes. Go ahead and do it. So I don't blame Dustin Poirier at all for taking the 5 minutes or however long he did take. Because it was definitely more than a minute. It was like 2 minutes or so at the very least, I want to say.
Do you think that second eye poke, was the momentum already in Dustin Poirier's favor going into that? And or was that almost the turning point that gave him time to not relax, but recover? The round ends, he comes back almost full rested with a second win possibly, and then he just got his punches in and was able to finish the deal.
That seemed to be the case, because for me, before that eye poke, it almost seemed as if it was Dustin Poirier was going to come to his demise soon.
Yeah.
That's the way it seemed. He was fading. He was getting tired. He was having trouble keeping up with Gaethje. Gaethje was not slowing down at all. And Dustin Poirier was getting tired. Not only was he getting tired, he was getting that front leg kicked to death.
Those kicks are crazy.
Can you look up how many leg kicks Justin Gaethje landed against Dustin Poirier? I want to see. I want to say it was like 50 or something. I mean, like, it was an insane amount of leg kicks Dustin Poirier took. So the leg was falling off pretty much. Have you seen pictures of Dustin's leg?
Yeah.
Shit's crazy.
Yeah.
You saw the back of his leg too?
Yeah.
Oh my God. It was just like disgusting. The amount of leg kicks that Justin Gaethje landed on Dustin Poirier was just out of this world. So his leg's falling off, basically. He's getting tired. And at this point, and Justin was not slowing down. He was still throwing those leg kicks. It just seemed like at some point, Dustin was going to fall. It seemed to be inevitability when Dustin was getting tired as well, because it seemed like Justin was just going to be able to not push him up against the cage, but pressure him up to the cage, just land big combinations, kind of like how he pushed Michael Johnson up against the cage when he finished the fight. That's the way it seemed like it was happening. And then the eye poke happened. Dustin Poirier got a little bit of a rest. Maybe 50 seconds were left in the round or less or something. So the third round ends. Dustin Poirier already gets an extra rest. Now he gets to chill a little bit more. He's got another round to breathe. He kind of catches that second wind. First 50 seconds into the fourth round or less. I think it was like 45 seconds into it or something like that.
Yeah.
Lands a huge counter left hook. Justin Gaethje finally paid the price for throwing all of those leg kicks. Dustin Poirier lands a massive counter left hook.
Yeah, that was
rocks
nasty.
him. I mean, that was just sick. The left hand that Dustin Poirier landed was just, I mean, the way it snapped at the end of the punch,
Yeah.
he caught Justin Gaethje right on the button, perfect precision, and he was rocked. But what was the crazy part was when Justin, I don't know if you saw the slow-mo clip of it, but when Justin Gaethje was backing up, right, and he was rocked, like he was wobbling and stumbling everywhere, he put his hands up and waved Dustin Poirier onto
Yeah.
him like a fucking madman.
Yeah.
Justin Gaethje is fucking insane. But Dustin Poirier came through with the finish, landed a huge right hand as Justin Gaethje was backing up against the cage, and yeah, it was donezo for Justin Gaethje. Some people thought the fight was stopped early, but I completely disagree.
Oh no,
you let them.
No, he was definitely out.
You saved that man a few more years of his life, and
Yeah.
you don't. But utterly outstanding resiliency from Dustin Poirier. I mean, outstanding resistance. I mean, the man stood there the whole time, took leg kicks until his leg virtually fell off. Was, you could argue, on the brink of a defeat in a couple minutes or so, and gets the opportunity. He turns it around, changes the whole wave of the fight, and just puts the finishing touches on Justin Gaethje.
What? How long of a win streak is Poirier on right now?
He's only on a 2-fight win streak because he took a no contest against Eddie Alvarez.
Okay, but barring that,
he's won 3 fights in a row, aside from the Eddie Alvarez fight.
Okay.
If you count the Eddie Alvarez fight as a win, that's 4 fights in a row. But kind of difficult to count it as a win. Very difficult to count it as a loss.
What do you think is next? Does he get Khabib?
I don't know. Well, did you see how many leg kicks?
I didn't. I couldn't find it.
Couldn't find it.
No,
I want to say
they
it
only
was like 50
on
or so.
UFC.com. They only show strike totals. They don't break it down.
Fair enough. No, I think it's absolutely possible for Dustin Poirier to get Khabib next, actually. I do think there's a chance. The only way I believe there's a chance is if guys who are already in front of Dustin Poirier fall out of line. You know what I mean? Like Conor is number 1 right now at lightweight, supposedly.
To take him out of the equation.
Take him out because he's not
nothing's
coming
telling
back.
me that he's fighting.
You don't think so? You don't?
I mean, not that I don't think it can happen. It doesn't seem like it's the case right now. So I just I feel like he should be removed from the equation. And that way, if he does come back, it's a nice, fun surprise, and you're like, okay, cool, Conor fight.
Well, a lot of people want Conor versus Khabib right now because of the whole bus fiasco of McGregor going for Khabib and everything, and Khabib just got the title that Conor lost basically without even losing the title. So they're thinking that's the fight to make next. But this man, like you said, I would just take him out of the equation until I see some full-on proof that Conor's going to come back. Because at this point, I don't believe it.
So then there's that. Tony Ferguson, when is he due back?
Exactly. He's out for a little while. I'm not sure how long. I want to say at least 9 months, maybe more, maybe closer to a year. And if it's 9 months, I think that's just the recovery time period before he can actually train to get fight ready. So it could be a year till we see Tony Ferguson. I'm not sure if that completely holds true or not. I'm not sure if he would be good for the November timeframe because I know that's when Khabib wanted to come back and fight, was the November timeframe at Madison Square Garden when the UFC returns there. So if Tony Ferguson's out, and obviously Conor would be out, who's number 3? Eddie Alvarez, right? Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier have some very much unfinished business that they need to take care of. And I think that fight would be next for Poirier. if we're talking about, title shots or if he's going to get a title shot or not. If you're asking me who I think should get it between a Dustin Poirier and an Eddie Alvarez, I definitely think Dustin Poirier should get it. While both of them have finished Justin Gaethje recently, Dustin Poirier, I think, finished him in a way more dramatic fashion. I thought it was a crazier fight. I thought it was a crazier finish. I thought it was more impressive than Eddie. Not to say Eddie Alvarez's win over Justin Gaethje wasn't, but I mean, Dustin Poirier just, I don't know what it was, but something about staying there, being resilient, and then coming back with just this crazy come from behind sort, in a way, KO. Yeah. At least in the first 2 rounds, I thought Dustin did enough to win them, but I thought the third round Gaethje won. But I think Dustin Poirier would be next in line because here's the thing too. After that no contest happened between Dustin and Eddie Alvarez, the fight has been offered multiple times to Eddie Alvarez, and Alvarez has consistently shut it down. He does not want the rematch. He's turned it down, I think, 5 separate occasions. They were actually trying to schedule Eddie Alvarez versus Poirier for the UFC 223 card. So if that actually fell through, like the way the Tony Ferguson and Khabib fight did, Eddie might have challenged for Khabib for the title right there. That's the way that they were kind of thinking it was going to happen if he had accepted the fight. But Eddie Alvarez didn't accept the fight. And I think at this point, if Eddie's still not accepting the Dustin Poirier fight, you give Dustin Poirier a title shot. If Tony Ferguson and Conor McGregor aren't going to come back anytime soon against Khabib. So there is a legitimate path for him to get the title shot.
If that happened and Poirier gets the shot at Khabib, is that the best ground technician that Khabib will have faced in the UFC?
No, I don't think so.
Who is better?
I think Rafael dos Anjos is better.
Okay, yeah.
Not to say Dustin Poirier isn't good on the ground, but I just think dos Anjos is excellent grappler. Yeah. Excellent grappler. But Dustin Poirier is no slouch on the ground.
Yeah. I just, because, I have come to the conclusion that the stand-up guys really don't have a chance against Khabib.
Yeah.
Because his stand-up is acceptable, right, to get him through, and then he gets you on the ground, and then it's just done. Like, the ground guys just don't have the ability to get back up once they're down with Khabib.
Right. I mean, even every decent grappler that Khabib has faced, he's just been able to easily control them for the most part. Like Rafael dos Anjos, he ragdolled Art. I think to like a 30-26 decision.
Yeah.
And I mean, nobody does that to RDA.
Right.
Nobody does. And that's when RDA was still for the most part in his stride, in his prime and everything. Yeah. So it wasn't like this was an older RDA who wasn't as good of a striker and everything. This was entering his prime RDA, and this is before Khabib really started to enter his prime. So, but yeah, I think Dustin Poirier would stand a solid chance against RDA. I mean, not RDA, Khabib. But I don't know. I just find it really difficult for Poirier to be able to beat Khabib. I think it's going to take somebody who is good enough of a striker to land the kill shot on Khabib and has good enough takedown defense and good enough base, good enough wrestling in order to stuff his takedowns. That is the best shot at beating Khabib. I think if you're a great grappler, that's awesome, but can you win position against Khabib? Probably not.
Right.
Somebody like Dustin, who could land a hard shot on the feet, is definitely possible, but chances are he'll probably get taken down, and I don't think he fares too well off of his back against Khabib.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I would like to see it, honestly. I'm not going to be mad if that ends up being the case.
I wouldn't be mad either, because Dustin Poirier is awesome. I love me some Dustin Poirier. He's dope. He's always in an exciting fight. He's kind of been this sort of middleman in the division at lightweight and featherweight, where he really couldn't win that, like, that big fight. He got the big fight a couple times and he lost. He lost in the main event against Chan Sung Jung back in the day at 145. He lost against against Conor McGregor when he got his shot against Conor. He got knocked out in the first round. He lost in the main event against Michael Johnson in 2016. And since then, he's picked it up. He got a win over Jim Miller, a very solid win over Jim Miller, and then he had the crazy fight with Eddie Alvarez that he was honestly soundly beating Eddie until the illegal knees happened. So that's a fight he was soundly winning until some bullshit did happen. He just beat Anthony Pettis very impressively back in November, and now he beats Justin Gaethje extremely impressively. hard to not give this guy a shot if those guys can't fall through. I mean, if those guys can't follow through in their shot.
Yeah.
So would you want to see Dustin next, or would you prefer the Tony Ferguson or the Conor McGregor or somebody of like that? Would you prefer Eddie Alvarez? Who would you want to see fight Khabib next?
If Conor is an option, it would be obviously a spectacle to see him fight Khabib in Russia. That would be complete worldwide insanity. But I just don't feel like it's likely, but I don't know shit. So, yes, the number 2, even over Tony Ferguson, like we said, I don't know why. I'm just not the biggest fan of him. I think Dustin Poirier would be awesome as the next title shot. Or Khabib's first title defense as champion.
Sounds Gucci.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I said Gucci.
Yeah, it's recorded now.
Oh, well, fuck.
Just like we kept in my hashtag last week.
Oh, that was awful. You should create a new hashtag. Right
yeah, if you guys want to weigh in, let us know hashtag who's next for who you would want to see fight Khabib for his title. Who do you want Khabib's first title defense to be against?
You can put a poll up on Twitter. I'll do that. Do you want it to be Conor, Tony Ferguson, Dustin Poirier, Eddie Alvarez? Who do you want it to be?
We should
let
do
us
that.
know. Hit us up with the hashtag. Who's
at
next?
2 guys in a fight is our Twitter handle on Twitter. You got anything else for that fight?
Nah, man. I think we covered
sick.
the majority of it. It was a great fight. It's outstanding.
Yeah, so the fight right before that was Carlos Condit versus Alex Oliveira. It was a quick fight. I don't know if there's much to say. I think it ended in like 1 minute and 50 seconds or something like that.
Condit versus Oliveira?
Yeah.
The second round.
Oh, what's the second round?
Yeah, man.
Dude, how am I so off?
I don't know. I think you're talking about the what was that fight?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the last fight of the prelims.
Yeah, you're right. I'm thinking Bosch and
Shoeface.
Yeah. What the fuck kind of nickname is that? That's kind of fucking rude.
Shoeface.
Did he choose that, or like?
I don't know. That's
how do you
good
just
question.
get called Shoeface?
I have no idea. I genuinely don't know.
That's awful.
That's pretty terrible.
I would.
Who knows? I don't know.
Maybe
I'm sure there's got to be some backstory to it.
Yeah.
There's got to be. Like, there's no way.
Yeah. If you know why he's called Shoeface, hashtag us. I know why. At 2 guys in a fight.
Wow.
That's not why.
I know why. Stop. Oh my god.
That's as good as it's gonna get today. Well, all right, you pick a better one.
Suck
yeah.
at
Okay.
hashtags.
All right. I know why.
I'm not even gonna embarrass myself.
Yeah, I can't think of a better one. So I know why is the hashtag. If you know why that man's name is Shoeface. But yeah, so the Condit Oliveira fight.
Let's just do why Shoeface. Like hashtag why Shoeface.
I know why.
No, not I know why. No,
all right,
that's
fucking.
horrible.
I honestly don't give a shit.
You should.
You're the Twitter guy, so
yeah, you need to start doing some Twitter.
No, I don't even know how to use it.
Yeah.
So
you sound like a 50-year-old.
I know.
I don't know how to use Twitter.
That's the only social media that I sound like that about. I love Instagram. That's my shit.
Because it's pictures. You just scroll and see pictures.
That's all you need.
You don't
That's all
need
I
the
fucking
words.
look at on
You don't
Facebook
read
anyway.
Yeah, I know. All right, let's get on to the fight.
Yeah. We need to have a podcast where we just rant about shit, though.
Yeah, just what's on our mind one day, and then just start talking about deep shit in the galaxy.
2 guys in a rant.
2 guys in a rant.
That would be fun.
Let's do it.
Where we channel our inner 70-year-old and we complain about all this newfangled social medias and Facebooks and shit like that.
I tell you what, that governor.
Oh, God, no.
No, like we start talking about politics and shit. No, we can't do that.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Goodness.
The Condit fight. What did you? I mean, I don't remember much. Apparently
about
not.
I think we were eating during that time
Yeah.
period, and I feel like you were just so zoned into your plate.
Yeah.
That maybe you don't remember what happened.
Yeah. I do know.
I don't have too much of a memory of the fight either. I remember it was pretty good. Condit looked good. Condit looked like Condit of the past in the first round. He definitely won the first round. He took Oliveira's back. It seemed like he was kind of close to getting the rear naked choke. Remember that?
Right.
Yeah. So now hopefully you're getting a little bit more out
and
the
then
fight.
In the second round, from what I could see, like he was cut a little bit, and then they did like this weird like get up, and then they rolled. What's the word for it? It's a get up, right?
I mean, he stood up. I'm not sure
but he sort of like rolled out of the position that they were on the ground.
Yeah, he scrambled up.
He scrambled up.
There we go.
And then just and this is the thing is I couldn't tell if it was Condit maybe losing his awareness and making a mistake, not like a huge one, but getting caught out of position, or was it Oliveira's awareness to know that he's in position to lock in that guillotine? Because right as he stood, it's like he fell into that guillotine, and that shit was locked in once he got it.
Well, I think it was that initial up kick when Condit was stacking the guard and trying to pass and get to side control and throw those legs to the side.
Right.
When Condit did that and he threw that punch, Alex Oliveira landed a flush up kick. And I think that's what really started everything. That really rocked Condit. Condit was, you could tell like the way, after he got hit by the up kick, it was insane. When his forehead hit the canvas, did you see the blood?
Yeah,
just
that's
drag?
that's what cut him.
Oh my God. Like Carlos Condit,
which we made
a
note of it. That was the only blood that hit the canvas that I could tell.
The whole night?
Yeah.
No.
Remember we were watching
Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje were both like so bloody.
Okay, probably up until that fight. But I remember how clean the mat was.
It was pretty clean.
It was a pretty clean mat.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they were just cleaning it really well after every fight or what. But yeah, there's usually way more blood on the mat. But
yeah, so he left a big old smear when they rolled that time, which led to the get up. Because right after that is when he got up and ended up in the guillotine.
Oh yeah. So yeah, he basically was rocked, and then Oliveira sprung up to his feet, and Condit instinctively shot for the takedown when he was like very rocked.
Right.
He got into a guillotine, and here's what Alex Oliveira says. Alex Oliveira said that Carlos Condit was out, and then he woke back up and tapped out. I'm not sure if that actually came to fruition. You never know. It seemed like Carlos Condit was out for a little bit, didn't it? Like the way he went to the ground.
You couldn't tell. It was like he was positioned in a way where you're like, is he going to tap or is he out?
It was really tough to see, and it seemed like the referee was having some trouble seeing if Condit was out or not.
Right.
Condit was not moving. He wasn't touching Condit's hand to see if he was out. It almost seemed like he was, and then he kind of started moving a little bit. I'm not sure what it was, but it seemed like he was either he was unconscious via the chokehold, and then it loosened to the point where he could breathe again. I have no idea if he went out and then came back to life or what, but eventually Condit had to tap, but it was that up kick that really led to everything.
Yeah.
But Carlos Condit looked like himself until that point.
Mm-hmm.
That usually, I mean, obviously Carlos isn't the top tier Carlos Condit he used to be. I mean, when he was, competing back in, 2010, 2011, 2012, when he won the interim welterweight title against Nick Diaz back in those days, that's not the same Carlos Condit we're seeing now, obviously. But it seemed like he wasn't a past his prime, non-motivated Carlos Condit.
He said he still loves it.
Yeah, you saw the post on the Snapchat after the fight. Yeah, he said, I love this shit. So, I mean, he's definitely he seems to have the fire and desire back. Obviously, he's probably not going to be competing at the Tyron Woodley's, Stephen Thompson level, Darren Till, any of those guys. I don't want to see Carlos Condit against those. I mean, he looked solid. I want to see him against a guy who is very somebody he can beat at least to show he can still get in there and possibly be competitive with somebody that's up in the top 10.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I want. I mean, Carlos has proved enough in his career. I don't really want to see him take a shit ton of damage moving forward, especially if his heart's not 100% in it, or he's just not in his prime anymore. He just physically can't do it anymore. But if he's competing the way he did this past Saturday, I'm all for seeing some more Carlos Condit.
Yeah.
I mean, how much, I know you're still fairly new to the sport and everything, but have you had the chance to see much of Carlos Condit's past fights?
No, I did my homework for these fights. So I went back through Fight Pass is what I do. And so for the upcoming fights, I go to each fighter and I go back maybe 3-4 fights in their catalog and I watch them if they have that many, which Israel Adesanya doesn't yet. But I went back to, I kind of went deep on Condit because I wanted to see him in his prime, and so I watched the GSP fight for when GSP was defending his title against Carlos Condit. And yeah, I mean, he was awesome in that fight. Like the first 2 rounds, he kind of looked a little shaky, and then he found his way and fucking cracked GSP with that leg kick to the head.
Yeah, that
dropped
leg kick.
him. And from there, it was a very even fight. And I think watching it back, it was a close decision, man. Like I feel like that. Obviously, GSP did enough to win, and this is so fucking long ago. It almost doesn't matter, but it's new to me because like I went back and I think I had seen that fight in real time when it happened, but I just had to go back and watch it again. But yeah, so he's high level. I mean, he gave GSP in his prime a really good fight. So this guy has it in him, and I don't like kind of what you're saying. Like I don't think that this fight necessarily shows where he's at. I think it was just a bad fight, but I don't think he's necessarily lost all his ability that he I think he's still very much Carlos Condit.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think he's still game. I just don't think he's prime Carlos anymore,
Yeah.
of course, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, a great win for Alex Oliveira. He comes in, takes his fight on 2 weeks' notice, and gets the W. Very impressive. He hung tight in the first round when Carlos was threatening with those submissions. He came back in the second round, landed a very, very flush up kick, and then took full advantage of it. Not many people do that to Carlos Condit, even though Carlos is kind of reaching that point in his career now where I just think if you saw his fight with Robbie Lawler, that was the one where he really took a lot, I feel like, of his type of a lot of damage that really affected his longevity in this sport. I mean, it was just a war. Both guys were taking unreal punishment. I mean, Carlos Condit has taken punishment in the past, but not like that. And I just think that kind of fucked him up for his next fight against Damian Maia, where he got submitted first round. And then his last fight, where he took like a year and a half off or something. He came back against Neil Magny. He didn't even look a quarter of as good as he used to be. And then this fight, I mean, it was definitely, you could tell once again the fire was back in his eyes and everything, but it just didn't seem like he could compete with somebody like Oliveira, who is honestly mid-tier welterweight right now.
Yeah.
And he can beat some top guys for sure, but I mean, if Carlos was in his prime, that's a fight he wins all day long. But still, an excellent win for Oliveira.
Yeah.
I would like to see him face, honestly, a top 10 welterweight. Let's see what he can do.
Yeah.
I'm down for that. So yeah, I think that's about all I've got to say.
He looks
for that
like
fight.
a guy that could cause some issues with some top 10 guys. That if he's really good that night and they're not so good, he's got the chance to beat them.
Yeah, and Oliveira is still, I mean, very, very sharp, very powerful, explosive. He's still learning every single day. He's still getting better. You can tell each fight he kind of comes out a little bit better. So I'm excited to see where he goes from here.
Yeah. But that's really all I got. It was a pretty short fight. Going from a guy who may be at the end of his career to a guy who is possibly reaching his prime in his career, Israel Adesanya. He fought Marvin Vettori. This fight? I don't know. I'm high on Adesanya. I felt like I found him a few episodes ago. That wasn't that long ago. Was that our first episode?
First episode, yep.
Oh, so I guess that was quite a bit of time ago. But yeah, so I'm pumped because he's got that flashy style and stuff like that, and we definitely saw it in rounds 1 and 2, and then round 3, he didn't look good at all, I thought.
No, yeah, he definitely didn't win that third round. I'm not sure what judge gave Vettori 2 rounds.
Yeah, no, I definitely
know.
think it was 2-3.
Yeah, Israel Adesanya looked sharp as can be in the first 2 rounds. Looked outstanding, stuffed every single takedown. And I'm not sure if he slowed down a little bit in round 3 or if Vettori just finally was able to, get the hands class, get the double. I can't remember how he first got Adesanya down. I'm not sure if it was from the clinch through a trip or if it was via a double leg.
Yeah.
I can't remember. But he eventually got Adesanya down in that third round. And Adesanya showed some things on the ground, like he was able to move from half guard back to full guard and then work his way back up to his feet. He was able to get back up to his feet pretty easily without taking virtually any damage or Vettori passing guard in the third round.
Yeah.
And this is it could be a case where he was genuinely tired. So maybe that is where those struggles came in off of his back. But no, he didn't look. He looked kind of. I'm not going to say like Francis Ngannou lost on his back, but he definitely looks like that's. I mean, obviously it's a hole in his game. But here's the thing with me, I kind of expected that.
Right.
I mean, he's coming from kickboxing. I mean, his kickboxing record was, I think it was 75 and 4 with like 29 KOs.
Yeah.
I mean, just an unreal record. And he's coming over to MMA, and I think this is his 12th fight. He's 12-0,
Yeah.
but he's 12 fights deep into this, right? And most of the guys that he's faced on the come up were not very good wrestlers. They weren't very good grapplers. So these past couple fights, he faced a couple decent grapplers. Marvin Vettori is actually a legitimate grappler, and he's got some decent wrestling skills. So I was honestly, at least in the first 2 rounds, very impressed with what Adesanya was able to bring to the table. I mean, he was clearly outstriking Vettori the entire time. Both first and second rounds, easily stuffed all takedowns, and just looked like an animal out there. Looked like, okay, it just seemed like the time was eventually coming. Like it was a foregone conclusion that Adesanya was going to land the big shot and knock out Vettori in probably the third round. That's the way it seemed. And then, once again, I'm not sure if it was because Vettori was able to initiate the clinch, and able to land and get that trip takedown, or if Adesanya was a little bit tired in that third round. Whatever it was, Vettori got Adesanya to the ground and did expose a hole in his game. For me, I kind of knew and figured that hole was already going to be there. I was honestly more so impressed with Adesanya's takedown defense in the first 2 rounds than I was with not being impressed with the last round. You know what I mean? Like, he's still, for me, like, I don't expect this incredible, this highlight reel figure coming out of nowhere, just making his entrance into the sport, not having much of a ground game, and expecting, these flashy, brilliant submission attempts from his back and shit, or even getting up to his feet, which he struggled with. I don't expect that out of him. I expect slow progression on the ground, and I think that's what he will get. But I think with his takedown defense, is actually really good. He did a great job of utilizing his base, separating the hips, getting underhooks, turning whoever was Vettori whenever he tried to engage in the clinch and take him down. And he was able to disengage a lot and able to. He held the center of the cage the whole time. Was able to pick Vettori apart from a distance, landed a lot of very brutal leg kicks, and landed some hard shots on Vettori multiple times. A lot of times throughout the fight. So it just seemed like he was eventually going to get it.
Right. And so that's my point of disappointment with the whole thing. And this goes back to the thing about, dominance versus flashy. You can be dominant and flashy at the same time, but make sure that you're dominant first and foremost. And I feel like in the first 2 rounds, because it took place in his domain, upright punches and kicks, I think he could have finished him. I think Adesanya could have finished Vettori in possibly the second round if he went for it. And I think I love the flashiness. I love the Matrix-esque, bobs and weaves and stuff like that, and how he dodged that head kick. He dodged like 3 head kicks, roundhouse kicks to the head that are fun to watch. I love that. I don't want him to change that at all. But it maybe was a little bit too much flashiness, a little bit too much playing around, too much arrogance, which again, I love. But I have a feeling. He's been dominant his whole career. Now he's in a slightly different realm, and I still want to see dominance. You know what I mean? So take care of that first. If you can knock this dude out in 2 rounds, fucking do it, because then you do run the risk of getting taken down when you're tired and not looking so good. And that's not your domain. Don't let it go there. If you have that option, and I think he does. And that's just me being confident in him more than I am being critical of him. I feel like he has that ability, and I think he should take advantage of that. But one thing I'll say to back up my point, though, is I did take down some of the statistics, and it was a pretty close fight if you're only looking at like punches landed. Adesanya landed 67 total strikes, Vettori 60. So it was only a difference of 7. The crazy thing is, though, is the accuracy is Adesanya landed 50% of those shots. Vettori only landed 35, which was because of how elusive Adesanya is. I mean, at some points he kind of made him look ridiculous.
Very.
Yeah, and
very.
So
those eye pokes, quote unquote, too, were a little.
Yeah,
little
no,
sketchy.
that second one, oh god damn!
No.
He called Vettori said he got poked in the eye, which I think the first one was genuine. The second one, if you look at the replay, it looks like Adesanya goes to punch, but fucking damn it. Vettori was bringing his like forearm up, and then when it connected on his fist and drove his own hand into his eye. That's where the eye poke came from. From my vantage point, that's what it seemed like.
I get either that or the elbow that Adesanya threw Blaze's eye or something. But he thought it was an eye poke, and not Adesanya just threw an elbow over the top, like a slashing elbow over the top. And Adesanya was like flipping him off. Yeah,
afterwards. He was like, "That's
like fuck out of here,"
because that's some bullshit. Shit. That's when you need to boo somebody for trying to take advantage of a 5-minute, stoppage or recovery time if you really don't need it. And I think that's sometimes what people are booing about is not everyone believes that the guy that's taking it needs it. That was definitely a time I don't think he needed it.
Sure. 100%.
Yeah, that was
to me in that instance, it seemed like Vettori was looking for a break, looking for a way to try to get back into the fight, or either that or looking for a way out. He was losing, every second of those first 2 rounds. And the crazy thing is Vettori actually thought he won the fight. He said on Twitter he thought he won 2 rounds, and I don't know how, on what planet, who would have had to be watching it.
I'll even say the round that he did win, the 3rd round, he only won almost by default just because he had top position. He didn't do any damage from there, though.
0.
So it wasn't... You won 1 round at most, and just by default, just because Adesanya really didn't land anything, and you didn't do shit from on top, but... There's no way he won that fight.
Hell no, not a chance in hell.
But I do agree that it was that Adesanya only won 2 rounds.
Me too. Like Adesanya obviously didn't win round 3. He didn't. We talk about Vettori not doing anything with getting the takedowns. Adesanya didn't do anything either. He was just taken down. So that's by default. That's why he lost the round. But it's not like Vettori went out there and out-grappled Adesanya. And the thing is, like, people, say, oh my God, there's this huge hole in his game for, not you, I'm just talking about people in general, because, you're critical of Adesanya, but in a good way.
Yeah.
Like, you understand, what was going on, but everyone else is like, oh my God, anyone who could possibly have decent wrestling is going to just ragdoll this guy. That's not what I thought. I thought he worked his way up to his feet very, easily for the most part. He took 0 damage off of his back. So, and he showed very good takedown defense. So I think as he improves, the more he fights, the better he gets. I just think that's going to get better. And I think in terms of striking, he's out of this world. Yeah. I would say, I think he looks a little small for middleweight. What do you think he does? Do you think he looks a little small for the weight class?
Muscle mass wise, yes. Yeah, but he's very tall, right?
Oh, he's very tall and lanky.
I can't tell. Like, where does he belong? You know what I mean? Can he lose another 15 pounds? Or no, it'd be 15, right?
Yeah, I don't think he's. He doesn't struggle to make 185 at all. Obviously, I almost think he's a little too big for 170, though. He would be huge at 170.
So what is his other option then? To fill out and go up to 205?
I would just say you could fill out and stay at 185. You know what I mean? Just fill out a little bit more and then cut a little bit more weight. That would be my thing. But I just don't know if he's going to have that base strength to defend against takedowns from somebody like a Yoel Romero. You know what I mean? Or even a Luke Rockhold. Like, I think if Luke right now, and I'm not saying Adesanya should be able to be competitive against a Yoel Romero or Luke Rockhold right now, or a Robert Whittaker. I don't think he should, because he's so young in the sport. Bring this guy up, give him some guys who he can improve against, and if he continues to improve his game in the way that he improved in kickboxing, the guy's going to be a star. He's only, I think, 28, 29 years old, and Anderson Silva didn't break into his prime until like 35 years old. So, and he's new into the sport of MMA, so he still, I would say, has some years on him. Right. So give him a little bit of time, I would say, and he will. I think the takedown defense will improve. I think the grappling will improve. I think it'll only improve with time. And Vettori doesn't get enough credit either, because Vettori is a very solid wrestler grappler. And he is one of these guys who is a prospect in the middleweight division as well. Not many people are talking about him, but he was one of these middleweight prospects. So I mean, it was kind of a clash between two middleweight prospects, and Israel Adesanya won. So I don't think it's necessarily that Adesanya was fed like a can and got, he lost the third round to a nobody. Like, this guy Marvin Vettori is legit. I mean, he's a brown belt in BJJ. He's a legitimate fighter. But there's definitely improvements to be made in Adesanya's game, but I think we will see those improvements over time.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's really all I got. Slightly disappointed. Still a great fight.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I wanted to see the big finish as well, and we didn't get. I wanted to see like the the sniper shot finisher, one shot kill, but it is what it is.
Waterson versus Casey. What did you think of this fight?
It was a good fight. It was a fun little fight. Michelle Waterson was able to use that high crotch single leg takedown a lot. The timing was very, very good on those takedowns. She utilized side kicks a lot from the outside to keep Casey at bay. And but Casey did close the distance multiple times and landed some pretty big shots on Michelle. But Michelle was able to utilize that takedown, get Casey down. Now from here, this is where it gets a little controversial, in my opinion, because depending on how you're viewing the fight, are you viewing close submission attempts as positive towards Casey, or are you viewing submission escapes from Michelle Waterson as more important? And she's got top position too. So who exactly, and she's landing the takedown. So who exactly do you give in that instance? Who do you give the advantage to, and why?
I just overall, I feel like Waterson was fairly dominant throughout the whole fight. Surprisingly, because Casey's a big girl. Like, she's got some size on her for sure. That's a good question. That's almost like a philosophical question, really. Like, is it...
I try.
Yeah, do you value more the submission attempts or the submission defenses? And honestly, if I have to make a call for this fight, I was probably more impressed with Waterson's defense than Casey's offense on the ground for submissions.
I would honestly agree with you here, but I think like my question too, context has a lot to do with it, because in this context, I think that Courtney Casey wasn't super close to really a lot of those submissions, if any of them.
Yeah.
So I think Michelle
were never
escaping
perfectly
them.
locked in. But that's the irony, because was it at the very end of the fight. It looked like she had finally secured that arm bar, because I was like, oh, just pull from the top of the arm, and she got it. And then the fucking round ends, and she like out loud just goes fuck, or she yells at the end because she knew she had it finally after 5-6 attempts.
I think it was more than that. She attempted many arm bars, and she had a lot of submission attempts from her, and she finally got it, like you said, on the last one, and Michelle was able to survive at the end of the bell.
But I mean, that says a lot for Michelle Waterson's just ability. She was able to get in great position. When she was caught out of position, she was able to change and move and pull her arm out of danger. And yeah, so I think she was probably more effective on her defense, obviously, than Casey was on her offense. So yeah, I'd definitely give that to Waterson for sure.
Yeah, I would give the fight to Waterson too. Like I said, I like you said, I think in this context, the submission defense was more impressive than the offense, because it wasn't like each submission Casey was close to getting, that she was just a few seconds away from getting it. It was as if Michelle was clearly out of danger in just about every instance. It's like, okay, there's a chance Casey can get this, but Michelle never let herself get to that point where it was so dangerous that she was really in any trouble. So I thought in that case that Michelle's top control. I think while Casey landed the harder strikes on the feet, I think Michelle landed maybe a little bit more.
Yeah. That one kick, that body kick, sent her flying backwards.
Waterson
nice. Landed a kick on Casey, I want to say just like halfway through the fight, that fucking changed the game, I think, because it kind of shocked Casey. When she hit the ground, she looks up, she goes, oh shit. Like,
yeah, that
was a kick.
Yeah, I don't think she expected that. It's that Michelle Waterson has a nice little sneaky right side kick to the body, or even she throws it to the head a few times.
Yeah.
But she's got that nice little, it's very sneaky. It's very out of the blue. She really is able to time it very well too. She landed a few of those. Whenever Michelle gets pressured, she definitely has a little bit of trouble. But no, she was able to execute on that single leg high crotch takedown over and over and over again. And I think the top control and avoiding just about all of those submissions. And she landed some ground and pound here and there. Nothing crazy, but I think if you scored the fight for Casey, I'm not going to sit here and be super upset with you, but I do think Michelle Waterson definitely did enough.
Yeah, no, I think she definitely won the fight without a doubt. She was more dominant when she needed to be, and she was more elusive. Like, I think Casey only landed maybe one or two. I mean, she was hitting at the beginning of the first round, and she landed that one cross that like kind of sent her loopy for a minute. And then, but after that, I didn't see any inkling that like she might be in danger from then on out until the very last like 5 seconds of the fight. So let me ask you, because I don't know too much about Michelle Waterson. I know she's a big name as far as the women's section of UFC. Has she been sort of in a slump lately? And is this sort of like did she look great and maybe she's like possibly on her way back up?
This definitely could be the case. Michelle Waterson was winning a few fights. She had beaten Paige Van Zandt, and that's kind of like that was like her little pinnacle in the UFC, where she beat Paige Van Zandt in the big main event of the Fox card, submitted her in the first round. It was huge. It was great for Michelle Waterson, at least in terms of popularity and exposure. So she gets that win, and then she loses to Rose Namajunas. Nothing wrong with that at all. But she loses to Rose. Next fight, she loses to Tisha Torres, which was at UFC, I think it was 218. She lost that fight. So she loses to Tisha Torres, who is an excellent fighter and barely lost to Jessica Andrade recently. Well, not barely, but she lost, but it was a close fight. She lost to two elite fighters, but nothing to hang her head about, but definitely in a little bit of a slump. And then she comes back and gets this win against a very legitimate, girl in Courtney Casey. Like she's a good fighter, despite what her 7-6 record says. Yeah. She is a good fighter. It's just the women's division. Like Raquel Pennington's getting a title shot. I think she's in the women's bantamweight division, and her record is not that pretty. Yeah, Rose, when she won the title, I think Rose was like 7-3 or something. It's nothing crazy. I mean, obviously her record's better now, but so don't let the records fool you in that case. But yeah, Michelle Waterson seems to be kind of bouncing back a little bit. Yeah. Hopefully I'm not sure who they would match her up with next. Maybe like a Carla Esparza or something like that. If she doesn't already have a fight, that'd be a good fight for Michelle Waterson. But I definitely say she would. It seems like she's bouncing back a little bit from here.
Yeah, but I mean that's pretty much all I got for that one. I was impressed. That was a fun fight, entertaining all the way to the end. So yeah, absolutely, it was a tight little card. I mean, I asked you what you rated it overall at the very beginning. I think you gave it an 8 or 9.
I would say a 9.
9.
I'm going to say a 9 because of the Dustin Poirier fight. Yeah, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje,
and that's kind of I would agree. I give it an 8.5, and a lot of that does come from the Poirier fight too. Yeah, that was really impressive. Maybe number 2 was this Waterson fight for me. But yeah, no, it was a fun fight. Yeah, that's all I got for that. You got anything else to say? Any news or anything?
Nothing crazy going on right now. There's a few fight announcements.
It feels like after last week and the Conor thing, it's like what is newsworthy
what's
anymore?
Gonna top the Conor? What's going to top the Conor shit? Yeah, exactly. That's what I think that's what like everybody's kind of thinking. But I don't know. I don't want anything fucking crazy like the bullshit ass Conor bus attack to happen again. I mean, like it is, cool. Like MMA's in the headlines for a week because of something an idiot did. Yeah, and now we're fishing for something hopefully just as good. Yeah, you know what I mean. So it seems like everything's kind of starting to settle down a little bit. We're getting back to the fights. We're not focusing on this idiot, the Irish rampage or some bullshit. So I mean, fight announcement wise, there's been a couple. Holly Holmes got a fight against Megan Anderson, who is, and it's actually the first ever 145-pound women's fight that wasn't a championship bout. So maybe they're starting to kind of develop a division behind Chris Cyborg. Who knows? But this is likely the winner will get Chris Cyborg, I assume. I'm assuming they would do that Holly Holm rematch in a heartbeat if she beats Megan Anderson. But Megan Anderson is a legitimate featherweight. I mean, she was the women's bantamweight title holder in Invicta before she has come over to the UFC. They were going to do her versus Chris Cyborg for the inaugural UFC featherweight championship, but she couldn't end up making it to the fight. She's had some personal issues that she's been dealing with for the past year. So she's finally making her UFC debut against Holly Holm. I'm very excited to see what she brings to the table. That's going to be an excellent fight at UFC 225. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of much else.
That's cool. I mean,
unless have you seen anything recently that's kind of?
I mean, we're a little late on it, but Nick Diaz possibly coming back.
Oh yeah, there's definitely that potential. Hopefully he does. He's been turning down fights and whatnot for a while now, from my understanding. I mean, he's only going to come back if the money's right, and I don't blame him at all.
Yeah.
Get your money while you can.
Yeah, I mean, he's a huge name.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, he can fight though now. He's not suspended by USADA anymore because of the whereabouts thing.
Yeah.
So he's actually eligible to fight, I think, on either 420 or 419. So it goes along very well with what I think it ends on the 19th, and he's like his celebration day is the 20th or whatever.
That's
so
tight.
It's funny.
Speaking of 420, did you see that they cut to Sean O'Malley was in the crowd?
Yeah, with
and he did the homage to Nick or Nate Diaz.
That shit was hilarious. That shit was hilarious.
Yeah, that was funny.
But yeah, next week we got a pretty big card. Are you excited for it?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
UFC on Fox Sports 1. The main event will be Edson Barboza versus Kevin Lee. Holy shit.
Yeah.
That fight is going to be bananas.
That, and then we got our Edgar and Swanson.
Frankie Edgar making his early return from the Brian Ortega loss. We'd already talked about that in depth in one of our podcasts, so you can definitely check one of those out to see what that's about. But actually, that video's on YouTube where we're talking about Frankie Edgar and Brian Ortega. Frankie Edgar coming back early. Yeah. So, Frankie Edgar and Cub Swanson, the rematch is the co-main event. Whether or not you agree with the timing of the fight is one thing, but it's happening, so let's embrace it. Hopefully nothing bad happens.
Yeah.
Is there any other awesome fights on that card? I'm sure there's a few other good ones.
Yeah, it's a good one. I can't think of any off the top of my head. I gotta do my homework.
Yeah, so if you can make some quick picks, I mean, who you got? Can you make a prediction yet on the main event and co-main event? As of right now?
You know what? Like, with how Habib was able to handle Barboza on the ground, Kevin Lee is a high-level wrestler. I think now you have a blueprint to follow to beating Barboza if he has a weakness. So I think he makes that attempt, but I just don't think that Kevin Lee is Habib, and I think Barboza really does have a shot in this fight. And still, even as tiring as it is to fight Habib, Barboza still had some energy in the end of the third round and could have almost landed some of those head kicks. So if he has any bit more energy than he did in that Habib fight, I think he actually has a good chance. And so I kind of want to go for Barboza.
All right.
Yeah.
Look at that. I think Kevin Lee's a slight favorite, so you got the upset pick going on.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. I like Barboza, man. He's a fucking, talk about exciting dude, like to watch. He's scary, man.
Barboza is a terrifying human being, and fucking Habib made him look so human.
Yeah.
But
and I gotta feel like fighting Habib is such a humbling experience that you cannot not grow from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
Just feel like your game is going to be elevated after fighting him.
Yeah.
And I want to see what that looks like in Barboza.
No, I'm like, I completely understand what you're saying. I'm going to actually go with I'm going to go with Kevin Lee in this fight. I think he gets it done. You're making a good argument, though, in regards to learning from that type of loss against Habib is sort of career altering in a good way, right?
Yeah.
You would think. I think it's the same exact thing for Kevin Lee, too. He just lost to Tony Ferguson for the interim UFC lightweight title. It was a very close fight. He was winning. Actually, you could make an argument. At least the first round, he won. He was winning the fight until he began to get tired because he did have a staph infection.
Yeah.
And he's only 25 years old, so he's grown. I think he grew a lot from that experience. He's taken some time off. He's kind of swallowed his pride a little bit. He's biting his tongue in regards to a bunch of trash talk this time around. It seems to be like he's maturing a little bit. He's only 25 years old, as I said, and I mean, this guy, he is a really incredible prospect. I mean, he's still growing and getting better at each and every fight. Each time he comes out there, he shows a new element of his game that's surprising to us. So I'm really curious to see what he brings to the table against Edson Barboza. How will his striking fare against Edson? How will his wrestling fare? I think Edson Barboza has always had a difficult time dealing with pressure, and Khabib, I mean, exploited that to the max. So I know Kevin Lee's really going to go out there and make an effort to pressure Edson Barboza. Right. He's going to look to time that double leg takedown from a distance. I think he's going to be able to ragdoll Edson a little bit. And Kevin Lee is a powerful wrestler. I just think as soon as Kevin Lee has got Edson Barboza's back, he's not going to, try to dominate Edson for 3 rounds like a Khabib did. I think Kevin Lee's going to look to take Edson's back, pound him until he can choke him out. I think that's what's going to happen. But I mean, if Edson can stuff the takedowns, if he can create separation, get away from the cage, and land some hard leg kicks on Kevin Lee. The thing with those leg kicks, though, Kevin Lee is a good double leg, wrestler. Like Kevin Lee is a very good freestyle wrestler. He'll shoot from. He has an awesome double leg. He has a great shot. So if Edson Barboza throws those leg kicks, Kevin Lee could really take advantage of them and use those as takedowns. So that's something Edson's got to be careful of. But if he can keep his range and try to find the boxing range, land some of those hard kicks from the outside, Kevin Lee's going to have a long night too. So either way, I think this fight's just going to be insane.
Yeah.
I'm gonna lean towards Kevin Lee, but it could easily go towards Edson Barboza. So I mean, it's just entirely how you view it happening.
Any thoughts about the Edgar Swanson fight?
Man, we talked about this a little bit. And I'm still kind of stuck on the lasting image of Frankie Edgar's feet flying off of the air against Brian Ortega.
Yeah.
And Cub Swanson's a fucking killer. Cub Swanson's going to be hungry too, because I know that he was possibly not going to be re-signed by the UFC after his contract just ended. He thought he was probably going to go to Bellator. He got the fight offer. He's back in the UFC. I think he's hungry. Frankie Edgar is getting, I know Cub Swanson's like 34, I think, but Frankie Edgar's 36. He just took a hard knockout loss. Is his chin gone? I'm not sure. Cub Swanson might be able to take full advantage of that. Cub Swanson was dominated by Frankie Edgar a few years ago, but is that same Frankie Edgar around? Kind of the same question we had with Carlos Condit. But he's returning very short notice. If he gets clipped by a hard shot, I have a feeling it may not go too well for Edgar. I'm gonna go on a limb. I'm gonna lean towards Cub Swanson. I think he gets it done. Too. I think he's gonna knock him out in like the second round, and I think it's gonna be ugly.
Yeah. Yep. I feel the exact same. Yeah,
either that, or we could just get an exact repeat of the first fight and just utter dominance from Frankie Edgar for 3 rounds. Who knows? But I'm gonna lean towards Cub Swanson just to be a little different, and because I still got that lasting image of Brian Ortega lifting Frankie Edgar off the ground, man.
Yeah, that's tough. Well, if you like what we're doing on the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. It's much appreciated. You can also follow us on Twitter at 2guysinafight. You can also subscribe to our channel on YouTube, where we post highlights from our previous episodes. We have one coming your way about the Conor McGregor fight, or Conor McGregor bus debacle.
The bus attack?
The bus attack.
Yeah, we got that video coming your way soon.
That's coming. But that's from our last fight, our last episode. And we're going to chop this one up too and get those out as highlights for you guys too. So definitely subscribe to us on there. But that's pretty much it for this episode. So like we said, next week we'll be back to cover Fight Night Atlantic City, Edson Barboza versus Kevin Lee. And it should be fun. So we'll see you then.
We'll see you then. Peace out.
See you.